Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight to our discussion on homelessness in public spaces. I guess, as you all know, the Supreme Court made a recent decision regarding our case, so I appreciate that everybody's taken the time to come out and learn more about where we stand. It says a lot about your commitment to the community, and that's why we're all here too. We do have Councilor Lovelace and Councilor Yunker are not able to be here tonight, but they are listening in remotely. And then Councilor Riker is going to be a little bit late. So I know it looks a little sparse out here, but we do have more people paying attention than it might seem. And I guess with that, we have a presentation that the city manager will be doing, and then we'll give everybody an opportunity to give us some feedback if you desire to do so, and we're ready to listen to that. The council will not be making any decisions tonight. We're just going to be taking in some information. We will be needing to make some decisions relatively soon, probably within the next couple weeks here, so that we will have a temporary plan at least in place for when the injunction gets lifted here in Grants Pass, and we'll continue to work on long-term solutions as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to our city manager, Aaron Kubik, and he'll catch you up on some background of where the case stands right now.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff, and members of the public. This is sort of like back in the old days when you'd go to the theater to get out of the heat because you didn't have air conditioning. Today you get to go to the council meeting to learn a little bit about resting in public spaces and where we are today with the Supreme Court ruling. So even more informative than an old movie. The agenda, as the mayor mentioned, is I'm going to just review the legal landscape of Grants Pass regarding time, place, and manner for resting in public spaces. We're going to review briefly federal, state, and local laws, and then discuss next steps, and then focus on the real meat of today's meeting, which council had a desire to hear from you on this topic. And so primarily the meat of the meeting today is council listening, and we'll be taking public comment on those who desire that. Then we'll adjourn, and we'll be discussing and making no policy decisions tonight. So I want to start by just highlighting federal, state, and local laws and where we are with that. When it comes to regulating city public spaces, we have three areas of law that we have to focus on. That's the federal, the state, and the local law. In order for those to work, they all have to work in unison. So we need to make sure that they're working together, especially when it comes to time, place, and manner regulations for the city of Grants Pass. So what do we know today from a federal law perspective? Because there's been a lot of things that have been happening over the years. This is what we know. There are four things. One, that cities cannot criminally punish a person who is experiencing homelessness or someone who is lying, resting, or needing to take a break. We also know that from laws that cities are not required to build or provide shelters for persons experiencing homelessness. Another thing we've learned from the federal law system is that cities can continue to impose reasonable time, place, and manner on individuals resting in the parks. So there is an opportunity for cities to impose time, place, and manner regulations, which is what we're talking about today. The fourth thing that we recognize from federal laws is that for a program to be counted as an effort within the city, it needs to be actually within the city boundary. It can't be a program that's out in the county somewhere, but it needs to be a service that is within the city in order for it to count as a service that we provide. So those are what we know from a federal perspective, but there's another part of the federal perspective, which is Johnson versus Grants Pass, which is the lawsuit that we were in that we recently received a Supreme Court ruling on. The city of Grants Pass's ordinance was challenged for violating the 8th Amendment, and that was our camping ordinance that we had back in 2020. The Ninth Circuit Court, which is where it was appealed to, ruling prohibited all enforcement of anti-camping ordinances against homeless persons when there is no other place in the city for them to go. And that was a quote from their ruling. So they stated that in Grants Pass, we really didn't have any low barrier shelters. And as such, we cannot prohibit camping in public spaces when you don't have an option for them to go somewhere. The city of Grants Pass did appeal the Ninth Circuit Court ruling, and we went to the Supreme Court, and that took a little while, but we recently did get a ruling coming out of the Supreme Court. And I want to say it's not over yet. We're still working on it, but the United States Supreme Court ruled in favor of Grants Pass and reversed the Ninth Circuit Court ruling. So what the Supreme Court basically said is homelessness is acute, multifaceted, and not given to any single policy solution. They went on to state that the Ninth Circuit Court inappropriately limited the tools available to local governments for tackling what is a complex and difficult human issue. So the Ninth Circuit Court released that for the city, and ultimately we were operating, as you may have heard the mayor and council talk multiple times, under an injunction. The injunction was something that was put in place that we were following. It was really the first in the state of Oregon to implement time, place, and manner regulations, because years later, we're going to talk about House Bill 3115, where everyone needed to implement time, place, and manner. For the city's time, place, and manner, it was dictated by the court rulings, and so we had specifically been told that camping must be allowed in public parks except for Reinhardt Volunteer Park, and that individuals can rest and camp during the designated hours, and we had hours that ranged around 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Is when 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. is when you can have a tent up. So we were operating on that for a number of years. You may have heard other communities talking about their time, place, and manner, which may be different than what I'm just explaining here. With the win at the Supreme Court, it provides us an opportunity now to have a discussion at a policy level with council on what our time, place, and manner regulations will look like. The case has been remanded back to the Ninth Circuit Court from the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court said the Ninth Circuit Court, it's remanded back to them. And the city is currently operating under our current injunction until the Ninth Circuit Court has released that injunction, which we anticipate will happen somewhere maybe around 30 to 90 days. Okay, it's really relatively broad, but I'm just giving you a time frame on when we think the injunction will be lifted from the Ninth Circuit Court. So that's just a framework of federal. Now we're done talking federal. I have a brief, just a little discussion. What about state laws? Do we have state laws that are already in place that will help provide direction when it comes to managing public spaces and resting in public spaces? We do. We have House Bill 3115 and we have House Bill 3124. So House Bill 3115 requires that any city or county law that regulates the act of sitting, lying, sleeping, or keeping warm or dry must be objectively reasonable based on the circumstances applied to the stakeholders, those individuals that are unhoused. Now, what is considered objectively reasonable is going to vary from city to city. And that has a lot to do with what is it in the external, internal environment. The bill does retain the city's ability to enact reasonable time, place, and manner regulations, aiming to preserve the ability of the city to manage public spaces effectively for the benefit of the entire community.
Let's hang on a bit, Aaron, and have
Sure.
some people sit down. I can see several seats up in the first 2 or 3 rows over here.
As the mayor is stating, we're trying to get you to fill the seats because we do have fire code, and the number of seats that we have in the room is the number of people we can have in the room. So please, if you're coming in due to fire code reasons, as our chief back there is probably telling you, we can't block the ingress and egresses to the building also. Thank you. All right, go ahead. Okay, so 3115 says, basically 3115 stated that, hey, all cities in the state of Oregon need to put into place their own time, place, and manner regulations, similar to what our injunction was, but they were free at the time to put in place what they felt was appropriate. The city now, once our injunction is released from the Ninth Circuit Court, will be doing the same. There's one more thing we have to look at when it comes to regulating open spaces for the public resting, and that's House Bill 3124. That deals with what's called established campsites. So what House Bill 3124 states is it states that local governments must give 72 hours notice before clearing out an established campsite and their belongings. So if there's an established campsite, it cannot be removed until after 72 hours of posting that campsite. And it requires also, there's a second leg to this, it requires that if we do take some of that belongings, we have to store them for 30 days. So we also have a location, we need to have a location and a place that is easy for individuals to come and retrieve their items if they need to. So we actually have to do that also. So there's two prongs to that. One is we must provide 72 hours notice, and if we do collect valuables, those valuables need to be held for 30 days. There's one more aspect when it comes to public space and resting in public spaces, and that is what's considered a state-created danger, which I think is just another piece that needs to be considered when you're looking at policies for resting. That is, what a state-created danger is, it's if a city designates and states that people can rest in a certain area. Say they designate a park, or they designate a piece of property, and they say this is where you can go and you can rest for a certain amount of days, or they establish some kind of urban campground. If the city is doing that, then it's creating what's called a state-created danger, which means when we state that this is where you can go, there is an additional risk and responsibility associated with the city. We need to make sure that there are safety precautions established in that location that we're telling people they have to go. So to be responsible, to make sure that everyone's health and safety is taken care of, we would need to make sure that there were restroom facilities, that there were wash stations, that they would be safe. So security would also need to be something that would be considered. Because if something happened there, there would be some responsibility and ownership on the city part because we told them that's where to go. And that's a little different than, say, just an open recreational immunity that you have in a general park that's established for just everyone, if you can understand the difference between those two. So, time, place, and manner when it comes to House Bill 3115. In looking at what other communities have done, we know that House Bill 3115 provides an opportunity for us to establish our own time, place, and manner, according to how council deems appropriate. What we've seen is that some communities are establishing designated hours that individuals can establish a campsite, set up a tent, and it could be sometime in the evening, and then they need to break down in the morning. So some communities are doing something along those lines. It still may involve a 72-hour notice to those campsites, depending on how the code is written. But one of the things that's important is no matter how council moves forward with the codes that they write, I want to make this note. Law enforcement resources will not allow for the in-the-moment enforcement of every possible site, every possible day. So we will be enforcing whatever council puts forward, but we have limitations with our service levels that we have. Potential expectations or enforcement discretion for people. Another piece that's important with these codes and the time, place, and manner that we're recognizing when we see what other individuals, what other municipalities have put together, is they provide discretion. They provide discretion for the officers in the field. They provide discretion for excessive heat like today, or they provide discretion for if it's snowing outside, etc. So there's items there that provide some flexibility in the way some of those codes are interpreted. It does require prioritization, discretion, and a team approach for humane, objectively reasonable enforcement. So, just to recap, gave you a little idea of what it looked like from a federal perspective. From a state perspective, we're needing to comply now with House Bill 3115, and that's the time, place, and manner that we're going to be discussing. So what's the next step and how are we going to start working on that? As the city continues to pursue solutions with community partners for shelter beds, we are required by the state law to create time, place, and manner regulations. We recognize the need for community members to sleep and rest We want to preserve grants passes livability for all and comply with state and federal laws as some of the main goals when we look at coming out of trying to develop appropriate language for our time, place, and manner regulations. So we're going to be receiving public comment tonight, just on your opinion on moving forward with time, place, and manner regulations as it comes to open spaces and resting. We will have further council meetings as we move forward towards an adoption of a time, place, and manner regulations. As the mayor said, there's going to be no decisions made tonight, no discussion by council tonight. This is truly an opportunity for council to hear from you and to provide an opportunity for them to gain additional information before they go into the policy-making decision and before they start making those policy discussions. So I think that's a very proactive approach on council's part to try to hear from you first, and then we will have meetings in the future to start discussing that time, place, and manner. So I have something, if you would like, there's two questions that council was wanting asked tonight. So I was trying to figure out what's the best way to ask that question of you. So what I have is, if you have a cell phone, if you could grab your cell phone, we have a cell phone poll that I would like you to participate with. And as you're getting that out, don't worry, I'm going to bring that back up to you. I'm just going to move this out of the way for a second. I'm going to bring that back up here. Technology, we're going to try it. Okay, so there's two ways you can do that. You take a picture of that QR code up there, or you can just go to minty.com, and when you click on minty.com, it'll say join, and then it'll ask you for those 6 numbers. Now, the city recorder also has paper and pen if you do not have a phone and you'd like to follow along with the 2 questions by just circling. You will not be included in the tally on tonight's screen, but you will be included in the overall tally at the end of the day. And for those people that are online right now, you can also be taking the poll as we speak, also by doing the same thing, scanning the QR code or going to minty.com. I'm going to continue to talk. I can tell you a little bit about the history of myself and where it began. Began in Portland, Oregon, and just pausing, trying to get it somewhere. Does pretty much everyone have the Minty pulled up on their phone now? No. Okay.
Hey, Aaron.
Yes?
Can I ask a softball question?
Sure.
Thank you. A couple times an established campsite was referenced in state law, and I don't know if you or the chief can explain a little bit what an established campsite actually is defined as.
So that's ultimately up for you as council to determine what an established campsite is.
Okay.
From a state law perspective, there is not a definition of established campground.
Okay.
So in the research of what we've seen other local communities are doing, it varies. There's a little bit of variance.
Thank you.
All right, how's everyone doing with the Minty? I am going to go ahead and pop it on. Let's see if it works. Oh, it is working. Oh my God, that's so exciting. Here's the question. Which 4 parks would you allow for the storage of camping materials or otherwise the establishment of a campsite for any period of time? I know this is a tough question, but it would be great if we have the same number responding to this question as we do the next question. So I'll give you some time on that. You can probably peek over to what your neighbor's plugging in too, and no one's going to come by with a ruler or anything. You'll be okay.
Just to answer a couple of the questions that I'm hearing from the audience, first of all,
So-
there will be a second question here in a moment, but also we don't have the option of picking nothing. So the city will need to establish reasonable time, place, and manner rules that allow homeless people to sleep somewhere. So that's why we're asking you this question. There are some options that aren't parks, such as public right-of-ways, but we will have to allow people to be somewhere. There's no question about that.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to provide 30 more seconds, and then we'll go on to the next question.
Does anybody need to see the QR code again? Yes.
Can you tell them the location?
Was it
There's a QR code
Eckstein is
again.
Portola Park?
It's Portola.
Eckstein is Portola, yes. Yeah, that's a good point. If some of you haven't done this before, you just aim your camera at the QR code and it should take you to the link to the website. Hey,
Colleen,
Aaron,
did you get it?
Can you flip it over to the parks, and I'll just briefly mention where they are in case people aren't familiar with it? If I can read it, so Baker Park is the boat ramp next to the third bridge, the Parkway Bridge. Eckstein Park is Portola, commonly known as Portola Park. What do we have? Fruitdale is next to Fruitdale Elementary School. Gilbert Creek Park is up here on the northwest side of town, as is Lawn Ridge Park. Morrison, Morrison's over there off Rogue River Highway. I was like, why am I drawing a blank on Morrison? Off Rogue River Highway, that one has ball field and a splash pad. Redwood Park is on Dowell Avenue, where the Redwood Elementary School used to be a long time ago. Reinhardt Park is the all sports park. Riverside Park, you all know, down by the bridges there, downtown. Tussing Park is directly across the river from the all sports park, tucked away off West Park Street. And then West Home is off of G Street on the far west side of town on Wildwood Avenue.
So, Mayor, it looks like we've slowed down on the receiving, so I'll go on to the next question. Oops. And so the next question, which 4 parks would you designate as unlawful to store camping materials or otherwise establish a campsite for any period of time?
So this is which four parks would you absolutely ban camping? I remind you, we don't get to choose all of them.
Again, this is which would you designate as unlawful to store camping materials and otherwise establish a campsite? All right, so I think that's about the same number we had for the first question, so I'll move on from there. Thank you very much for your participation, and we heard you and appreciate that. Of course, everything would be nice from what I heard to be off the table, but this was extremely important for council to have this information, for them to potentially make tough decisions in the future also, and to get your opinion on this, to have a prioritization of what you feel is important is excellent for council to make an informed decision in the future. So thank you for participating. So, what's next? This is the good part. Each person, we're going to provide public comment. So each person will receive 90 seconds. And what you'll see is this little box up here, right over there. The green light is your start time. Yellow, when the green light goes to yellow, it means you've got 15 seconds remaining. You'll want to probably start thinking about your closing sentence or two. And then the red light means the time is up. Because we do have a full house, please be respectful of everyone's time. And when the red light goes off, please conclude your public comment to allow for other individuals to come in and provide their comments. It'll be really important for you to start with your name, and if you're a city resident. We ask that you're respectful in your decorum, and we ask that comments, if you're going to provide comments, that they're directed to council as a whole and not an individual. And please keep your comments focused on the topic of time, place, and manner for resting in public spaces. And it might be in the past before, Mayor, you've had a line of people come up to maybe speed things along. But with that ends my presentation. I turn it over to you.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, we are just going to have people line up and let us know what you have to say.
Can I speak now?
Yeah, is the light on at the base of your microphone there?
No,
No, at the very base of the microphone is the light on?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay,
Oh.
just pull the mic up a little bit closer to your mouth.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah, please state your name and let us know whether or not you live in the city.
Okay, my name is Kim Hector, and I've been a law-abiding resident of Grants Pass City for 24 years. And you know, I am hoping and praying that we can make the city of Grants Pass a homeless-free zone. You know, they have gun-free zones. Well, the citizens of Grants Pass deserve a homeless-free zone. My concern is that the extreme fire danger, we have these lawless transients all around town and surrounding the city and in town. And my biggest fear is that they're going to burn our town down and start something like the Alameda fire, and we don't want our town to become like Paradise, California. And it is so serious right now that I have a great fear that this is going to happen. And in the Bible it says, because of lawlessness, the love of many would wax cold. And the other thing the Bible says, if you don't work, you don't eat. And I'm sick of the coddling of the homeless population when they take precedence over the law-abiding citizens. Thank you.
I want to remind everybody, no clapping or outbursts of applause. We just want to keep things moving. Thank you.
I start. My name is Colleen Hector. My husband just spoke. I am exasperated with this problem. This is the last time I refuse to come here again because nothing gets done. I don't know. It seems, my brother just recently came to town and I didn't show him any beautiful scenic views. I drove him around to all the parks to see the homeless. I go through these parks daily. It's unbelievable. I can't do what I used to do 5 years ago. I can't sit and eat an ice cream cone at Tussing Park. I can't go under the bridge. It's just exasperating. Why? In the amount of money. I go through Riverside Park biking. I smell a little weed. Okay, wow. Then shortly later, there's this hysterical woman on the phone somebody is ODing from some sort of drug they did, and before I know it, the ambulances are there, the police department's there. I can't even move the bicycle anymore. I'm afraid to ride the bicycle because there's so many vehicles coming in with alarms. Who pays for all this? The taxpayers. I don't want to pay for it anymore. I choose to work so I'm not homeless.
I'm going to remind everybody again to stop with the applause. Thanks.
Good evening, folks. My name is Ruth Daly. I am a resident of Grants Pass. I'm 67 years old, and last year I had 2 total knee replacements due to severe arthritis. I've lived in Josephine County and Grants Pass for 46 years. Imagine that I lost my home and couldn't find a vacancy or couldn't afford the high Grants Pass rent if I did. Imagine that I had to live in my car or a tent. Imagine that the city of Grants Pass said that I couldn't take refuge in a park that my family, my friends, and I have spent countless days of our lives in. And my grandson and I go to the parks all the time for all these years, still. Imagine if I was fined more money than I have because I have nowhere else to go. Imagine people view me as unworthy, even though I have worked hard through my life, have loved and been loved, and have cared for many people in my community. Well, you don't have to imagine that, because this is a situation for a great many of our unhoused neighbors. Please think of this as you work on time, place, and manner ordinances. Substance use and mental health disorders are not the driving force of homelessness. This is a housing crisis, not personal moral failure, and people should not be punished for not being able to find a home.
Hello, my name is Terry Fry, and I've been a resident in the Portola neighborhood, Grants Pass, for nearly 24 years. In the last few years, I've seen firsthand the increasing amount of destructive behaviors that have occurred in my neighborhood, right close to Portola Park, surrounding parks, and my community. On numerous occasions while walking my dog in my neighborhood, I've had to call the Grants Pass Police non-emergency number to voice my concerns about people who were mentally or in physical distress. I felt concerned about them, but also about my own safety. There have been an incredible increase in burglaries, stolen vehicles, drug deals in what used to be a safe neighborhood for families, often taking place in broad daylight. I have witnessed it myself along the railroad tracks by Agnes. I've been in contact for the last 6 months with Southern Oregon Railroad, who owned the property off of Agnes. Just 2 days ago, I spoke with them personally regarding my concerns over the very dry brush that is up around 20 feet in certain areas, with at least 3 or 4 encampments that are there currently. It is high fire season already, I voiced to them. In case you were not aware as well, those encampments located off of Agnes are located a very short away from the power station and also a propane station, which is located alongside Portola Drive. It's one match away from a disaster similar to what we saw in Phoenix and Talent. I have extreme compassion for them, but I would encourage you to also talk to the school district's transportation department and the problems that they have had concerning this as well. Thank you.
Mr. Fitch, returned resident. Going to be talking about vigilantism in the park. And when you funding that organization is where it ends. You funded Aspire, and they're training mentally handicapped individuals to harass people in the park, which is a new low for all of you. So our tort claim is at $42 million, and you will resolve the complaint. Have a good day.
I'm Herbert Wells, a city resident. And on these surveys, how totalitarian of you to say you may choose these things, you may not choose these other things. We have our own opinion. We are entitled to express them. My hat happens to say we the people. It should say we the council.
Winnie, Grants Pass. You've told us we couldn't do anything because we are under an injunction. We've watched our town destruct because of this injunction. We've been forced to live with this horrible, indecent way of life, yet we are the tax-paying citizens that keep this town going with our taxes and keep the parks cleaned of danger. Yet we still can't use the parks because of these homeless, addicted, non-functioning people. You should not continue to enable the homeless. Enabling is what kills them. That is all that continues, that is on all that continue to enable. The city enables, the nonprofits enable. Our kids and elders are not safe. Chaos runs rampant here now. The Supreme Court made the decision. Do not tell us to wait again. Give us our town back and get these people corralled into an area where they are away from kids, elders, and families. Enforce the laws and ordinances. Get them out of our parks. Do your job, the job that we elected you to do. Do it swiftly. It's your job. You ran for it. Now fix it. Now. No more injunction. No more excuses. Why do you continue to allow the homeless in our parks? Why are citizens the one with restrictions and limits?
Ma'am, please respect the
Answer
time
that!
limit. Thank you.
David Dapper, city resident. I'm unfortunate enough to own a home down by Tussing Park. I can't even take out my damn garbage without getting a "what are you looking at" and getting a screaming match out front of my own house. There's an elderly couple, 70 years old, that his wife is paralyzed. He used to push her across the pedestrian bridge. He can't do that anymore without getting yelled at. What about us? What about our rights that we work for? The kids can't play at the park. You should tear down the pedestrian bridge because it's useless. Tear it down and let the rocks be river rocks because it's useless. This park, this neighborhood, this is going to have an unhappy ending, and this is your state-created hazard. The Little League kids at Morrison Park had to shut their practice down Monday because the junkies were screaming at them. And they had to move their game to Reinhardt because it's not safe for kids to play Little League in the park, even with us cleaning up the syringes and foil before they play. What about the kids? What about the families that just try and live there? I almost nightly called police because they're fighting down there or blasting their music at 11, 12 at night. What about people living like human beings? And I tell you firsthand, watching this every day, 80% of them are because of drug addiction. That's the main reason for it all. Drug addicts. Get them out. Give us our homes back.
My name is Lisa Lister. I live in Grants Pass. I don't live in the city, but Grants Pass is my city. This is where I do my doctor's visits, my grocery shopping, my eating out, everything. Because where I live, there isn't any of those facilities. So apparently you intend to provide one of these lovely parks for the homeless, 80% drug addicted. I think your next survey should be, how are you going to provide for the residents who live around those parks so that they can pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What are you going to do for them? How are you going to protect their property value? How can these people sell their homes and even get out of here? They can't, because you guys can't do your job. My city, no, I don't live here, but it's my city, and I want it back.
I'm going to remind the audience, please hold back the applause, okay? We want to let as many people speak as possible, and the council really appreciates it when you respect the rules. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Tim Mitchell. I'm not a resident of Grants Pass. I'm a Merlin resident. My question to you folks is, why do the homeless get 10 place parks and the public who pays the taxes and the citizens of Grants Pass only get 4? Why? Why are the citizens of Grants Pass treated like second-class citizens? I just don't know. I don't think this is yours to give. It's not yours to give. The parks are the people's parks. It's not for the mayor or the city council to decide to give it away. And I think this is wrong, and it's not yours to give.
Hello, my name's Cody Goodman. I've lived here for 32 years. My whole life I was born right down the street. I've fought fire since my young 20s. I love this town. This is my town. And it's sad to see us, we're practically fighting, bickering over this argument. And we have to find a solution no matter what. And the fact is there's homeless people, and they're going to be everywhere if we don't find a spot for them. And people don't want to give away their parks. I wouldn't want my kids at these parks either. And I understand it's really hard to figure out. But we have to find a place for them. Every single tent in this town that's at all these parks, they could all fit in one baseball field. Literally. I know we'd have to regulate it. It's hard, you know what I mean? But that literally would be less money, less cost, less police, less governing, everything, than having them all over the place. People are happy they get their parks back. The homeless have something. They need a place, no matter what. We're not going to house all these people fast enough. It's not going to happen. We're not going to have shelters for them fast enough. It's not going to happen. We need a spot for them. It's not that hard to do that, and then maybe both sides can come to an agreement. It has to happen because they're going to be fighting. They want their parks, and we know we have to take care of them. We have to get them somewhere to stay. So maybe if we start coming up, get them all, like they said, get them all in one spot. I'm homeless, by the way. I live at these parks, and we need to come to an agreement, you guys. Instead of starting fighting, let's come to middle ground. And we want our parks, but there are places, like one baseball field. We have plenty. That won't take away from the children. It won't take away from anything.
Hey, that was great what everyone said. My name's Amy Wright. I'm from Grants Pass, and I just think it's kind of strange that they moved all these people into the park and they expect our police to take care of our city, and they have to take care of everything there. So the people have had to step up, and they've had to take care of themselves. The people walking around stealing people's mail and stealing everything that's not tied down. I mean, this is good and evil, and it's almost like you guys want to hinder the people, the taxpayers, and the people with homes. And, I mean, we drive down the street, and we see people laying on the sidewalk. I mean, can't you say anything or maybe ask them to move someplace? But they're just drugged out and they're passed out right on the road. We want our kids to see this? I mean, you have PA systems. Can't you say something or something? I mean, I've talked to a lot of them, and some of them are real nice. Some of the people in the park, I've talked to them, but that's about it. And then the rest of them, it's a drug-fueled free-for-all with fentanyl and speed, which is killing our families. Okay, that's all I have to say. I probably forgot some things, but that's all I have to say.
I'm Brian Weldon. I live in the county. I'm a Park Watch volunteer. Last summer, the city mayor and the council developed park code violation rules. No fires, $2,000 fine for a propane bottle in the park, buffer zones, no drug use, no smoking, no trash left behind. Why hasn't any of these rules been enforced? We visit Tussing, Riverside, Baker, Morrison, and now Fruitdale parks every week. It's worse than ever. We were asked to help out by the Three Rivers Little League school teams before and after every practice at Morrison Park. What a mess. Needles, meth foil all over the gazebo, and open drug use in both of the women's and men's bathrooms. This is not something children need to see. A death in a tent 20 feet away from the kids playing baseball. A mother has told me every single week at Morrison Park that her son every night at dinner asks her, when will the next death be at our school and our baseball games? We call the police every week with the lack of concern for all of you. Parents have entertained the idea of suing the city for child endangerment. Common sense would say this is a ticking time bomb. Stop enabling them now.
Rick Edwards, I'm a resident of Grants Pass. I live adjacent to Morrison Park. First, I want to thank Police Chief and City Manager for the job they've done. I know some of you don't think they've done a great job, but their hands have been tied, and with my experience in calling them 3 times a week. They've responded well, and they've made my living next to the park as enjoyable as possible. I want you to consider Morrison Park in the context that it is surrounded in 3 sides by residents, where I'm not real familiar with all the other parks, but I know a lot of them don't have residents around them. I walk the park daily. I do see what everybody sees, a lot of drug use. Also, I would like you to consider not just the tent camping, the car camping is pretty bad. You see a car pull up, 4 or 5 bikes pull up to the car, and then they leave, so you obviously know what's going on there. But once again, I know the people in charge, hands have been tied, and I have confidence that they will do our best for us as residents. Thank you.
I'm Catherine Mothy, and I'm a resident of the county. I'm an 80-year-old disabled widow. I want to be able to take my grandchildren and great-grandchildren to the park, to be able to walk from Tussing Park over to Riverside. I can't do it now. I have been attacked by Machete Man. I have been attacked by groups of people, and I can't take my grandchildren and great-grandchildren there. I also want my great-grandchildren and my children to be able to go play softball at Morrison without having to see a dead body pulled out of a tent by the coroner and put in a body bag. I want to be able to let them use the restroom without having to clean up the needles, the underwear that is full of feces, the clothes that are full of feces, the garbage, the screaming and yelling of us. I've had it. I know it happens. I'm part of Park Watch. I clean up those parks for the Little League. I would like to see it stopped now.
Mike Pelfrey, city resident. For 3.5, 4 years, we've been coming to these meetings since this problem started, and the mayor has repeatedly stated that she wants the people out of the parks. Well, now it's time to put up. You can't use the excuse of injunctions anymore, even though you might say we're still under injunction. You can do something now. You don't have to wait. It's not like we're going to get sued again and it's going to go to the Supreme Court. Act. You can see these people are wanting their parks back. We don't want a park back. We want every damn park back. Now, the other thing is I noticed that screen that Aaron showed, why wasn't there any properties that the city owns? Why haven't you looked at that resource? Why does it have to be a park? You've turned our parks, when I say you, yes, you. You have turned our parks into it's an embarrassment. I mean, when I say embarrassment, it makes me want to throw up every time I walk over to Tussing. Number one, you say Reinhardt's not included. Bullshit. Reinhardt's included. You know why it's included? Because it's connected at the hip to Tussing Park. The drug addicts go back and forth doing drug deals. I've seen them. I've watched this. I'm asking you, we the people are asking you to please do your jobs, get them out of our park, find another place to put them. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Josie Garcia. I'm a resident of Grants Pass. All right. I'm sorry. My name is Josie Garcia. I'm a resident of Grants Pass. I've lived here most of my life. I was born and raised here. The way I feel about this is an issue of entitlement with these people. We have the Gospel Rescue Mission. It's a wonderful program, folks. The only issue is with these folks, they want to do their drugs, they want to drink their alcohol, they want to have their pit bull. You know, why aren't we using the resources we have? In fact, I was over at my grandparents' place over in Talent. The city of Talent has designated one area of lot space for all their homeless people. It's not a park, it's just a lot that they bought specifically, and they place them there instead of in their local parks. I think that would be a great idea. I think we should model after Talent, Oregon, folks.
Hi, Victoria Marshall, City of Grants Pass. For years, our city has told us that we could do nothing because of the injunction. I noticed the city hasn't even removed the injunction from its website. Now tonight, we are given a scripted, predetermined choice attempting to create the illusion that the public made the choice that we are going to continue to do the exact same thing that we have been doing. That's wrong. You are hearing from the public now, and the Supreme Court has told you that you can listen to the public, and you should. It is not inhumane to move people out of public spaces. In fact, you'll be saving lives. This is from our SCOTUS. Homelessness is complex. Its causes are many. And this is Neil Gorsuch in the majority opinion. Public policy responses required to address it. At the bottom, the question is this. Case presents whether or not the Eighth Amendment grants federal judges primary responsibility for addressing those causes and devising those responses. It does not. In our democracy, our public can choose what they want to do in these cases. The Supreme Court is telling you that you can listen to them. They're telling you now, so please do listen to them. Thank you.
Oliva Herrera, County resident. It just seems like common sense, and it just feels like the council as a whole, is ignoring the fact that this is common sense. It's really simple, that there's a difference between homeless and not allowed home. And what we have here in our town is not allowed homes all around who are drug addicted and everything else. So if you haven't gone yourself to any one of these parks lately, I encourage you to go and learn about exactly what we're all talking about. We can sit here all day long and tell you how bad it is. It's so bad we're not going to allow it. The people of Grants Pass and Josephine County are not going to allow this to continue. So it's starting to look like people are having a stakehold or an interest maybe in the nonprofits that are servicing these people or something. It's looking bad for you guys. We are here to say no more, no matter what you guys say. Thanks.
Dell Aldridge, 35 years, city. We did a little survey and went around to the parks and counted how many tents we had. We counted 77 tents. So you're going to give 12 parks 77 tents, 6 tents per park? Come on, get it down to 1, 2, not all. Nonprofit, we've been hearing about this injunction for so long that you would finally get up here and say, we're going to take that veto and overturn it. Because the money machine is running in this town. It is putting that money into the parks. Go Thursdays and watch this 35, 40 cars just dump everything in the park. And then we come out Friday and have to clean it up. You got to stop this nonprofit machine and start regulating these nonprofits so that they know what they're doing. I have to say, Mint, I'll back them 100%. I see them picking people up in parks, taking them to someplace off somewhere, and what's left is the people that are the drug addicts. Don't get in my face or I'm going to scream and yell at you. The mentally ill, they're picking the good people out. And there's some good people out there in the park. I got 2 in Morrison that I just adore. One I was a scout leader for. You're making $21 an hour, I can't get a place. And he's living in the park. Drug-free, with a big sign on it saying he is drug-free. And another lady that I pick up on Ubers on a regular basis. They need a place to go that's safe, not religious. Do something. It's overdue.
My name's Shoni Nelson. I've lived here for over 40 years. I've got 2 toddlers. I think we need to make this about families, and especially families who have kids. Those kids go to parks. I am a content creator because of this. I was taking my son to one of the main parks, which is over by, you go across the pedestrian bridge. I took my son down there. I had no idea, I guess, this was 2 years ago, about how bad things were until my son came to me with a 32-ounce big gulp of human urine. Okay? He drank that. All right? Now, the next thing is, I thank God for that actually, because the next thing that happened is I took him to the river. Right there, floating in the river, had I not been alerted to that, all right, was fentanyl floating that my kids could have gotten into. Now, I think some things we need to address is Narcan. All right? We need to address that. Why? Because we are failing American families. We are failing toddlers. And you know what? I think that falls on you guys. I really do. I used to be totally for cops. I did. Until taking my daughter to school over at Parkside. All right? And supposedly, I was speeding. Supposedly. And I had 7 cops on me. All right? That was city, federal, and state cops. All on me. Guess what? Nothing was served to me at all over that. So you can spend that much on me, but you will not spend that much on a drug dealer that's saying they're going to harm my kids when I tell you guys about it? You don't spend a dime on that, but you'll send 7 at me taking my daughter to school. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Brock Spurgeon, Grants Pass. I'm with Park Watch. I was going to talk a little bit with what Del was saying. You know, we went and we did our first count. We're going to do this every weekend. We're going to go to all the parks they're camping at. We're going to count how many tents and how many people are living in their cars. We're going to track it. We want to know the information ourselves. If you don't know it, we're going to know it. This is a drug problem. There's a housing crisis, of course. There has been for years. This is drugs, drugs, drugs. Okay? My son is a homeless drug addict in this town. Is he really homeless? No. If he went to rehab, he's got a house. He's got my house. I've got a room for him. I'll take him in a second if he gets into rehab. I ask him all the time. He says, no, Dad, I don't want rehab. Why doesn't he want rehab? Because you can live on the damn street and get high all damn day. Okay? We have kids. I've got a damn kid out there. When does that OD call? What is it, my kid that dies in these goddamn parks? There's more than just parks. These are people's lives. Fix these people. Quit talking about putting them in a goddamn house. Fix them. Get them into rehab. Let's empty our parks out humanely. Save people's children. Chiefs guys do a great job too. Have a good day.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Police Chief. My name's Ed Luke. I reside in the county, but I shop and support local areas here every day. How to address displaced families is a national issue. We're not going to solve it overnight. It's going to be here for the rest of our eternity. All eyes right now are on Grants Pass as a decision been made. What is Grants Pass going to do that's going to help other cities deal with this issue? I was kind of taken back by looking at all the choices of the parks. That which one do we pick? None of them. That's not the answer. I take my family camping. I have to sign in. I have to go to a designated area to go camping. I have to fill out paperwork. I have to pay a fee. I'm not saying a fee is going to be is the answer for it. I'm saying, but if you want to call it a park, build a independent park that houses and services displaced families. Not these people's homes, not their backyards, where the residents can see a decline in their home value because of the displaced families or homelessness there. That's not the answer. You don't want it, and I don't want it. But if you build an area and call it a park that has all the resources that people can utilize, that would be more inclined to comply with your rulings and help other peoples in other cities that are watching Grants Pass, and what are we going to do right now? Thank you. Police Chief, thank you for your time and your service and your men.
Catherine, Hamilton County. Every time I get up here, I get sidetracked with something else somebody has said that I think is brilliant. Saturday, there was a fire that was started out on the 3600 block of South Side. Yeah, I know, county. It showed evidence of dispersed living. And I said to myself, I don't have an education, what the hell does that mean? So I look it up, and it's apparently campers that can camp outside of a normal campground. They're homeless. It's homeless. So luckily, 2 helicopters went out there to put it out. 2 helicopters while they've got all the fires going on out in Eagle Point and out in Jackson County saved what could have been disastrous for Josephine County. Thank you, Fire Department. Of course, thanks, Chief, for everything you guys do out here. This is insane. And giving us a choice on which park, my son sees tents at Fruitdale from his cafeteria. The principal has extra people out there. The 7 to 7 thing I've never seen because they're out there all the time. Last week, Fruitdale was a carnival. It was frightening. No, my 20-year-old nephew, who's been homeless for the last 6 years until I finally got hold of him, didn't want to use the bathroom at Morrison unless I stood guard. After I went in, checked the bathroom, then he'd go in and use it because of what's been found in the bathrooms. Something, come on, guys, we shouldn't even be here. Figure this out.
My name is Ralph Weidling, live in Grants Pass, retired professional first responder, 27 years. I see the dog and pony show was put on. First, I agree with everybody here that's been talking. And they talk about the police department being spread too thin. You want to give 4 parks for you to have to patrol. You know what? If you put them in one area like people are suggesting, hey, you probably have enough people to keep an eye on them, don't you? Yeah, don't have to be scattered all over playing whack-a-mole like you've been doing now. Okay, as far as the last lady that spoke about the fire, you guys all hear about the fire in Lapine? That started from a homeless encampment. It was witnessed. Okay, do your jobs. And people, don't forget to vote.
Hi, Linda Bradley from Grants Pass. You know, volunteering in our community is a gift to everyone. You're doing it, and we're all doing it. When I came here 15, 16 years ago, I came from a community that volunteers and did and created things. We had a bike path from Pasadena to Newport Beach, and we spent 20 years putting that together in Southern California. When I left 15 years ago, it looks like it looks now. You wouldn't go down it. And yet it was an amazing thing that you could do with your family and your friends, you know, just walk and talk and be a part of nature. What I would like to see is a plan. You have a gift from the Supreme Court, and as a city, you have a role not to do the same thing. I'd like to see you do a paradigm shift. I'm imagining you have a plan. I'm imagining that you are. I want you to know that with the police department and all this public safety we have in the city and county, I feel safe here. But if you don't declare a plan would even be one place for families and one for people who don't believe in rules and regulations.
Hello, my name is Sharon Fisher. I bought my first house here in the city of Grants Pass in 1977, and I just sold my last city home in 2022. I live in the county. I was a landlord. I'm a retired first grade teacher and retired landlord for good reason. There's lawlessness in our schools, even in first grade. If a child hits somebody, no discipline, no time out. So I couldn't live with that like the rioters in Portland. The police, their hands are tied. So I respectfully thank you for serving the city of Grants Pass, and I know your hands were tied. Federal and state laws are crazy. That's why I'm not a landlord anymore. But as far as homelessness, I know firsthand. I went up and got HUD paperwork for a person that I know was a single mom with 4 children and 2 dogs, and she got HUD to pay her rent of $1,800 in 4 months. Isn't that miraculous? They say the waiting list is a year. I've talked to Commissioner John West, who had a plan that said that the city owns acreage behind Walmart and between the juvenile jail and the sheriff's office. I don't know if that's truth or not, but that So that might not be, but anyway, another place, because it's like these questions where do I cut off my right arm or my left arm? None of those are options for homeless people because we don't want to pollute Baker Park and our rivers. We need a place maybe the city could buy, but like Reinhardt is managed privately. I might be wrong about that. So why can't all the parks be managed privately? Donate
Your
or
time
turn
is
it
up.
over.
Thank you.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for doing this. I so appreciate and respect all of you as volunteers, especially. It's a multifaceted problem that's going to require multifaceted solutions. We know that, and we don't agree on very much in our community, but there are things that we do agree on. One is that we have people who are experiencing homelessness in our community, and they're just not going to go away, right? So we all agree that. We all agree that having people living in our parks is not safe for those living in the parks, and it's not practical for the community because we can't use the parks, which is what they are intended for. And as a city, you know the cost of having those parks destroyed by having people live there. So we all agree on that. What I would really like to do, and I appreciate your effort to get information from other people, and I appreciate you bringing in community partners, because a lot of people in our community are doing great sustainable things to impact our homeless people, but they're so busy doing it. They just need an opportunity to come to the table and share their experience and say we can do this together. Lastly, I would like to say, and many of you and Path and other members all went out to Medford, and Rogue Retreat, Crossings, and other facilities are doing it, and they're doing it well, and they're getting people out of their parks and off the street. So let's look at where it's working, and let's try and take something that is especially local, that's already working. The city is already supporting the project. They already have people who are operating. Let's do that, and I wish you all luck.
Hello, I appreciate being here. My street name is Lionheart. I've been experiencing homelessness for the last 10 years. My background is also in neuroscience and research. I'd love to share a few things that I have learned as I have been on the streets of our city and in all 50 states. You know, people are people. Homeless people are people, and they generally respond to kindness better than force. If there's a way to persuade people to change their lives, my experience has been that they're willing to accept a hand up. But there has to be trust built. When I was on the board of directors of a nonprofit and had been there for 7 years, my clients wouldn't listen to me because I didn't know what they knew. And so I had to go experience what they knew and find out that they are the experts. The people on your streets, the people in your parks, know what they need, and they're willing to talk with you if they trust you. That takes time, that takes effort, but it's more than worthwhile. If you can persuade people and cooperate with them, I think your results will be much, much better than if you try to force them and mandate things. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Kathy Millard, Grants Pass. Well, I think the chains have been taken off, Chief. So we have been told we can have a little more control of this. And I'm asking no park. They're sweeping them from Portland. I have called before. They're sweeping them from other places because we had the lawsuit, the injunction. It is over now. It's over. So we want our town back. We're not going to wait on the Ninth Circuit. It could take how long? Now, I think the chief, no one wants to be a cop here. This is exasperating. And there's no law and order, but we're being told you keep paying the bill. Well, everyone has spoken tonight, and I'm asking nicely, do something. You too, Aaron. We want our town back. And get the smile off your face, Sarah.
Scott Potter, I live in the city. Look, you guys have been getting shot at all night. You don't have an easy job. But a year from now and 2 years from now, people are watching, they're not watching Portland. You know, Grants Pass is who they're watching, because that's what the spotlight was on. So you guys are in an amazing, amazing position. And a year from now, 2 years from now, I want to be going, yeah, you guys did it right. So I'm just here to say, I believe in you. And I'm here to say that you got a lot of really angry people, frustrated. I'm frustrated. They're moving into the park 2 blocks from me. It's horrifying me. But there's solutions. But we need to come together. And 2 years from now and 3 years from now, I want us all to be going, yeah, you guys did it right. So let's do it. Let's go.
All right. I don't see anyone else lining up, so we're going to close public comment for tonight. Thank you all for coming. I think we all agree we have a problem here, and that's why we have, held this meeting, and we've held a number of meetings like this in the past. I know everybody's frustrated. We're frustrated. The council, has been through multiple meetings like this. I did want to just clarify a couple of quick points. I just want to remind people the injunction is still in place right now, and what we're in the process of doing is coming up with a plan so that we'll have a plan once that injunction is lifted. But the injunction is a federal court order. This is not something that the city council decided. We were told by the federal court 4 years ago we had to allow unhoused people to sleep in every single Grants Pass Park except for Reinhardt, and that's the reality that we've been living with. There's been a misunderstanding tonight, I think, about the four parks and kind of our poll that we did, which was, just for informational purposes. We don't have to choose 4 parks, okay? That's not part of this. It was a game, if you will, a poll to get some input on which 4 parks people would most like to ban public camping and which ones people might find more acceptable. We understand that parks are not the ideal place for camping of any sort. I think I could get all 8 city councilors to agree with me on that. None of us have ever wanted unhoused people sleeping in our city parks. And we don't want that going forward, and our hands have been tied for the past 4 years. So I guess I hope that people have appreciated that and learned something about that tonight. As far as the 4 parks go, we can look at other places. We can have shelters, we can have urban campgrounds, we can look at empty lots, we can look at public right-of-ways, sidewalks. I think the point that we tried to establish earlier tonight is that even though we did win this Supreme Court case and we know that that injunction will be lifted, we have to comply with state laws. And what the state law says is that our city has the right and responsibility to establish time, place, manner rules. And each community across Oregon is doing that a little bit different. And we're studying what other communities are doing and have done, and we'll make our own rules here for Grants Pass that are appropriate to us. But we have to allow people to sleep somewhere. It doesn't have to be a city park, but it has to be places that are. You don't want them in your lawn, right? So that, we don't want them on private property. People's homes, people's businesses, and so that leaves public property, which is why they've been in our parks, because that's public property, including Reinhardt. Somebody was wrong. It's kind of a common misunderstanding about Reinhardt. That's definitely a city park. It just was excluded from the injunction because of the nature of use there. But we're working on a plan. We'll have a plan. We're going to do our best to get back. Probably you're going to see some parks banned initially, and maybe still some camping allowed in other parks for the time being, because we don't have a shelter or other established place for them to go. If we make a rule that bans, basically all the parks, we'll need to have other places. That might be sidewalks, parking lots, right-of-ways. We have to take these things into consideration. Where will the people go if they're not in one place? So that's what your council is going to be considering over the next couple weeks here. Feel free to ask questions. I think this whole thing has been a lot of misunderstanding and people sometimes thinking the worst of us, where we are, we are your neighbors. We absolutely know what's going on in the parks. Some of us grew up here, all of us live here in the city limits. We're volunteers doing this, because we care about the community just like you do. So we all want the best for Grants Pass into the future, and I thank you all for your time tonight. I know it's hot and nobody feels like doing anything, so it means a lot that you came out tonight and participated and listened, and we know that more people are listening online and at home, and that will continue to do so. It's available on YouTube, the video, so people will watch over the next coming days, and thanks for learning about this, and we've got some tough decisions ahead of us, and so thank you for recognizing that too. And with that, we are adjourned.
I'm going to add one thing. They're not doing a lot.